All right, it's 4:15. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Sam Martin and Bob Freeman.
Yeah, I think I'm here.
You wait.
I'm awake.
Okay. We're in to you. Keeping with our new policy, we're going to do a short or open the meeting to public input now, and it will happen again after we get through the red folder business. So public input now. Anybody? Mr. Adams.
Yes. It's just like class passing out
There
papers.
we go.
I was disappointed last week that you didn't follow what is typically a usual procedure in asking the Conservation Commission to come to a selectmen's meeting or a work session to explain the expenditures and why we were expending that money.
Okay.
I think that we could have easily explained to you by putting it out in front of the television and then the front page of the newspaper. It reflects poorly on the Conservation Commission. You know, we didn't have a chance to respond to your point, so that the town people are unaware of the other side of the issue. And I just think it could have been handled better by us coming to you in a meeting and explaining, and then if you still had problems, fine, you know, pursue it from there.
Okay. Do you want me to answer that point first? Or do you
No,
want
I
me
have
to-
one other thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I think I'm even more disappointed that you took the occasion to attack a volunteer who has put many hours into working for the town. I don't think it's a good way to treat any volunteer, and it makes it hard to get more volunteers if they're going to get attacked. You looked at the minutes from the conservation meeting and talked about the donation to Danville Pond Watershed Trust. And then you brought up the conflict of interest for me. And in fact, as you can see, I realized that legally it wasn't a conflict of interest, but I certainly recognized it could be perceived as a conflict of interest, and therefore I abstained on the vote, which is clearly noted in the minutes of the meeting.
It is.
Because I didn't want to make it appear that there was a conflict of interest. So I just wanted to make that statement to you.
Sure. And let me try to answer some of those. First of all, I would agree with you that my preferred method would have been to have had a meeting between just us and the Conservation Commission and air this. Because this isn't a new problem.
Right.
This is something that I brought up months ago as well. The problem with that is that's contrary to law. I wished I had the ability to meet with you individually and go over this. If I did, government oversight would rightly be having a cow about not conducting the town's business in the light of day, first of all. When I brought up questions about, and in fact, if you read this week's letter to the article, which again, I hope you understand, I have no control over what goes on the front page or on page 9.
I realize that, yeah.
If you actually read it, it would really call into question whether or not this was some sort of a witch hunt because of this idea of a membership.
Right,
So I did pull the minutes, and I did look at them.
Right.
And I looked at them before I said this. In the minutes of your September 14th meeting, you acknowledged in your minutes a letter from the Hampshire Fish and Game thanking you for the $125 gift. And from the American Forest Foundation, I was wrong, it wasn't the Society for Protection of Forests, thanking you, the Conservation Commission, for the
Right.
$100 gift.
right,
It's not my minutes, those are
Right.
your minutes.
I realize that.
I call into question whether or not the Conservation Commission should be giving gifts of
Right.
money which is owned by the town to anybody.
Right,
This is not an indictment of them,
right,
certainly not an indictment of the Danville Pond Watershed Trust. It has nothing to do with them. They happen to be the catalyst. If you were all members of the American Red Cross and chose to give $500 of conservation money, I would say it was just as wrong to do so.
right.
You mentioned that you abstained in this vote, which I appreciate. I did not know that at the time I said it. But you also only have 2 members, 2, out of the entire Conservation Commission, who are not also members of the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust. Which means you couldn't even come up with a quorum if everybody followed your example and abstained from voting on that issue. Would you agree? There's 2 people.
In the sense that you've got to look at membership is basically a donation. If you give money to the NRA, it doesn't mean that you have much say in what the NRA does. You are merely supporting their efforts. You don't have any conflict of interest with what the NRA does. You have simply donated because you support that mission. I think with membership, but if you want to get back to the specifics, for the American Forest, they do the tree farm, of which we have the town, 2 of the town properties are,
Was it a membership though, or a gift?
as far as I understand, it's membership in that, supporting that organization.
Because I think
which
there's a
is-
huge difference, Ron.
Right,
And I'm willing to make that
I realize
delineation.
that.
But that's not what your minutes say.
I realize that when they respond because for tax purposes, they have to respond to everybody that donates money, whether it's membership or whatever else. How they word it, I can't control. But because we are American Tree Farm, and 2 of our properties are tree farm properties, and that's basically the overall organization that supports the whole tree farm program.
Okay.
And-
the Hampshire Fish and Game Non-Game Species Fund.
For that specifically, that's for endangered and threatened species, which are not covered by all the regular fish and game programs. Licenses and most of their money goes to game that is hunted and fish and so on that are fish.
So would you agree that then, though, that is a donation, not a membership?
What
You
I'm
didn't
gonna-
become a member, you didn't become a member of the Fish and Game.
Well, what I would say in response to that is that there are at least 6 of those species that are endangered that are here in Ossipee. And from the conservation point of view, and I would take this to the DRA or the state to question, we are trying to protect, that is set to protect those species, okay, which, some of which in fact are here in Ossipee. So I see that as something that is helping Ossipee specifically. As an add-on to that, because we paid money, we get flyers from them, and they offer programs, and we are trying to set up a program from their education department, which is all part of the endangered species for the Ossipee School this summer. So you ask, is there any benefit? Yes, because if we didn't give a membership or money or anything, we wouldn't get that mailing, and we wouldn't have the opportunity to offer that program at the Ossipee School.
Okay.
That's my rationale. We have done it for a while. I guess part of it is just following. It's been a precedent. I didn't question it. I went ahead and, when the renewal comes up, I say, well, yeah, we've done it before, and I didn't see a real question or problem.
And I was also going to add that tonight in my comments, because I do think much of this has been, I'm not saying that some of this is anything new.
Right.
I think there does sometimes come the attitude, well, we've always done it.
Right.
Well, because you've always done it, obviously you know
Right.
as well as I do, doesn't necessarily make it
Right.
right. Those 2 issues aside for a moment. The $500 to the Watershed Trust, is that a membership or is it a donation?
I see it as a membership, but
Okay. The reason,
I'll tell you why specifically. That the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust has worked closely with the Conservation Commission in the past, probably for at least 10 years, to the best of my knowledge. They donated for the Windows project a considerable amount of money and helped raise the money for the scenic outlook. They took on the conservation easement for the Windows property and for the Scott property at Duncan Lake, the wildlife corridor. They have purchased signs and put them up on the boundaries of those properties. Every year they have to walk and monitor those. So there is an expense from them. We have not in the past given anything to them, in fact, to offset those expenses. And in discussing it, we felt that there was a reason to, in fact, support that with a membership, simply because they are providing a service for the Conservation Commission. They have to go out, and it would be the same with the New Hampshire Forest Society. They monitor our land on the Depot Road in Tamworth and Sumner Brook, and they have to go out and either do aerial surveys or walking surveys of that land. And in fact, with the Depot Road property, they typically do flyovers, which are quite expensive, and they found that the neighbor had built buildings on the Ossipee property. So we had to take action to have those buildings moved off the property. Once again, they're providing a service for us by, monitoring and checking that.
Again, believe me when I say this, this is not an indictment of them.
Right.
But I pulled off from their website. When you want, if anybody that wants to become a
Right.
member of the Danville Pond Watershed Trust, it is $25, $50, $75, $100, $200, and then other.
Right.
The decision by our Conservation Commission to give them $500.
Right.
It's not, nobody else pays $500 for a membership, and it wasn't a necessary amount. The logical leap then is it was a donation. This has nothing to do with
Right.
who it was. It's the issue about whether or not it is appropriate use of town funds to give to
Right.
anybody. No, I don't care that it was Danville Pond.
Right.
It also muddies the water when you have a majority of your membership who are partners in both. I'm not suggesting that anybody, and I don't want anybody to think that I am indicting the members of our Conservation Commission. You are all volunteers.
Right.
We have a terribly hard time getting people to volunteer
Right.
for any of the committees.
Yep.
None of that is the issue.
Right.
There is, though, a problem, and I think it's even more of a problem if it's not acknowledged that there is at least the appearance of a conflict when you have members of one organization donating, in particular, money which is owned by the taxpayer to an organization which they are also a member of.
Right.
That's not rocket science to me. The moment you made the decision to abstain from this vote is a decision that I applaud and should have been the exact same decision of everybody else who holds those dual memberships. When you're talking about public money, what you choose to do with yours, what Rick Morton chooses to do
Right.
with his money, our business. When you talk about public money, I think the bar goes from here to here.
Right.
And even the appearance of is damaging. It's damaging to the Conservation Commission, it's damaging to town government, it's damaging to all of us. I'm not looking to indict anybody. I had some genuine questions. I'll be honest with you. I've now heard your explanation. I still have a genuine concern about the decision to give Ossipee money to Danville Pond Watershed Trust or anybody else. You've been at every town meeting. You saw a whole host of nonprofit organizations who come to the town for funding. They go through a very regimented process. They support financials, all kinds of information, which then comes through the Board of Selectmen, then goes to the Budget Committee, then gets approved by town meeting. That's a very defined system for using taxpayer money to anybody outside of town government. Whether it was the Conservation Commission or if it was the Planning Board or anybody else who then chooses to step outside of that process, I think you do so at your own peril and at the risk of your own reputation.
I think because these organizations provide a specific service for the Conservation Commission, and we have money in our own account, I see it as beneficial that I'm not asking the taxpayers out of their own real estate taxes to pay for these services that the Conservation Commission is getting, monitoring the easements on our property. There is a cost to that.
And if they chose to bill us for that, and we then, in a budget process with oversight, choose to appropriate and pay that bill, then you're absolutely right. But that's the second time that you use that, you make a distinction between what is tax money and that conservation fund.
The only
And I argue that it's a
the
distinction
only
without a
distinction,
difference.
no, the only distinction I'm making, it's all town money. how it's raised is how I'm making the distinction. And the taxpayers' real estate taxes do not go into the conservation account,
Correct.
okay? So when we talk about that money, it is town money, it is the townspeople's money, but it wasn't raised from the taxes they had to pull out of their pockets and pay. And
No,
therefore,
but it was raised in part by rent, by donations,
Right.
by timber sales, by
Right.
any other host of things. The reason that concerns me when you raise that distinction is, again, I believe it's a distinction without a difference, in the sense that there shouldn't be a different set of rules that apply to tax dollars versus dollars which are in the conservation fund. To use that analogy then, the same thing should be true, that there should be a distinction between the way we spend tax dollars and the way the trustee of trust funds pays out of scholarships accounts. It is all money that's held in the public trust.
Right.
And therefore, I believe, needs to be treated at a much higher standard.
I know, and I would still argue that why should I, the taxpayer on my own property, have to pay for a service to the Conservation Commission? Once again,
But you're saying a service,
Service to the town.
well,
but you've made a choice in this, I want to be very clear on this. Do I think that you cooperating with the Dan Hall Watershed Trust on programs is wonderful? Yes. There's a difference, though, between them choosing to donate money held in public trust to to any other organization, whether it's them or the American Red Cross or anybody else.
There's a process.
That's the part that it concerns me that you don't see a difference between those two things. If you choose, and you do, in fact, we've spent Ossipee Conservation Fund money to do studies.
right,
You haven't heard me complain about that. I think that's an area where you can cooperate
Right.
and do stuff in conjunction. There is also in the statute a very plain reading that allows our Conservation Commission to even joint purchase property with other like organizations.
Right.
The difference then is it also requires a public hearing.
yes,
This is the issue in a nutshell. It's the issue of whether or not 6 people sitting in a room with no other input, no other oversight, can simply decide to spend that money how they choose to, or if there's going to be some transparency in the way in which it's conducted. I don't think we're on different planets, but we're definitely on different streets when it comes to how that money ought to be utilized.
and I think probably, we need to change that approach. I would go back to saying that I wasn't aware that having a meeting with a selectman would go against the state law.
It is.
But I would have preferred that if you had questions, that you brought us to the meeting so that, we could respond as opposed to just hearing one side. And, we had our rationale, it may be wrong, but, at least we had a chance to present it, of
And that's why I presented it as having questions and what I
Right.
presented for questions. I still have the same concern that what you have titled a membership is not in fact a membership, it is a donation. If we could play it,
Right,
we have a recording of the meeting, which they obviously all are. There was
Right.
open discussion amongst you and other members that it had to be called a membership because it would be inappropriate to be a donation.
Right.
That is
It's-
in your,
Right.
that is as plain
I
as
don't-
plain can be.
I don't deny that at all. I'm saying that because we have not supported them for the costs that they have incurred, and I guess in the future, I would propose that they bill us for that cost, and therefore then it's clearly coming under a service and they're billing it. We're not giving money as a contribution or a membership. I mean, then it becomes much more black and white. And I think,
But Ron, but I'm all well for rebate. You just completely sidestepped. That was like a presidential politic answer.
what, a Donald Trump
Yeah,
answer?
that was getting there.
That's rude.
That was getting there. If you folks, in your meeting, on tape, acknowledge that it would be inappropriate to give a donation,
Right.
but therefore we're gonna call it a membership. Isn't that, I mean, how do you justify that as not being disingenuous?
And dishonest to the taxpayers
I'm
of
not
this
trying to be,
town.
I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Right. I would agree with you. And I think in the future, probably the way to clear it up is to ask to be billed for monitoring. Because in fact, for many conservation easements, that's built right in, that there's a charge for monitoring the conservation easement, because there is a cost. For Spiniff, they do flyovers of hiring a plane, which is pretty expensive. For Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust, they have to walk the boundaries, they bought signs, put them up. I think then we wouldn't be in this gray area where, you know, are we talking about a donation, are we talking about a gift? We're talking about a service and it's paid for. And I think that would help to clear up some of this gray area here of making it more black and white. That's why, I'm not saying I'm ducking the issue, I'm saying, you know, I think going forward, that would be a much clearer way. So it would say, yes, a service was provided.
Have we ever paid for a service for them flying a plane over or walking a piece of land? Have we ever paid a service?
Well, because we're members of, like, Spiniff, and they have, if we hadn't been members, they probably wouldn't have taken on our conservation easement. I can't answer because that happened way back when the fish
So
hatchery
what
was
did it cost you
purchased.
way back for a membership?
I don't know,
You
it's
must
been,
have, you must have joined.
it's
But I
been pretty
also-
much the same all along.
I want to delineate too, I don't have a problem with you being members to a bunch of different organizations.
Right.
I pointed out in the meeting last week, if you watched the whole thing, the taxpayer belongs to the Taxpayers Association, I know the
Right.
chief of police belongs to the Chiefs Association, building inspector belongs. I have no problem with being membership of a different association, so long as you can show that you're getting something for that membership.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, you can't show, based on the discussion of that meeting, very plainly recorded. This was a donation that you made of $500, even to come up with the $500 figure. That's not even a membership figure for them. There was a donation, and that's the part that's inappropriate. Our chief of police, because he's a member of the Chiefs Association, has access to training. So
Right.
does, I get all that. If belonging to the Society for the Protection of Forests entitles you to get something back from them, training, etc., that's fine. You're getting something back.
Right.
That's not true of donating to the Fish and Game non-species fund. It's not true, because everybody has access to all that information at any given time. And it's not true in this case of the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust, because you're giving them $500 with not getting anything in return. I agree, and you can make the argument all day long that you do have all of these cooperative efforts going on. That is completely separate from the decision to donate to them. That's the point where it got to be too much, but it
Right.
wasn't about them. I raised the same issue back in September.
Right.
Even for your minutes to reflect it's a gift, you say you can't control how they categorize it, and you
Right.
can't. But you can correct this.
Right.
You can make sure that this is accurate. This isn't me saying it was a gift, this is you
Right.
folks saying it was a gift. It's your minutes. You read them, you approve them.
Right.
If it wasn't a gift, then that's not what should be reflected in the minutes.
What precipitated that $500?
Because we were talking about, in fact, they had just written us a letter regarding that they had completed the monitoring of the scenic outlook, and that in fact it met the qualifications. Nobody had infringed on it. There were no changes in the property. And because we do give money to the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, which I see is ongoing with their monitoring of our Depot Road property and the Sumner Brook property, that since we have not ever given any money to Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust for monitoring our property, that it was appropriate to give them some money for the monitoring.
I suggest you listen to your tape from that meeting I suggest that the Chickatelli property is what prompted that $500 donation, that you needed to be really careful how you worded that. I would listen to that recording. It's not about the monitoring, it's about the Chickatelli property.
Well, the initial input for it came from the monitoring. It may have come up in the discussion for the Chickatelli property. I don't honestly remember, Sam, I'd have to go back and listen to the tapes, whether that came up in the discussion. I know my initial impetus was the letter I got from Bob Pratt on the monitoring of the land.
And I don't want to beat this to death. My single ending statement would be that I believe that the rest of the people who have dual membership should have exercised the same good judgment you did to abstain from the vote. Unfortunately, for this issue and maybe any others that overlap, right now, you could not have a quorum you couldn't produce a quorum to vote on anything where you had those dual memberships, because
Right.
by my quick looking, there's only 2 people on your Conservation Commission who are not also members of the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust. That's problematical. I mean, that's problematic.
And my only response to it would be that if there were no members on the Conservation Commission that were members of the Dan Hole Watershed Trust, I would be very surprised, because we have joint goals and mission, and it would behoove both groups to work together. And I would probably guess I can look around at other towns and find out whether in fact that happens, where there's a land trust and a Conservation Commission in the same town.
Again, I want
Right.
to make sure that you're clear on my point on this.
Yes.
It's
I
not that you
understand.
can't work together.
Right.
There is a difference between working together and making the decision to take conservation
Right.
funds
I understand
and
that.
transfer them to an organization which you are also a member of.
I understand.
You recognize that conflict
Yes.
when you abstain.
Right. And I understand that, Rick.
You have another person on the Conservation Commission who is also a board member on the Watershed Trust, correct? Isn't Ron also on the board? Isn't he on both boards?
No.
He's listed on their website as on the board.
They've changed the
No.
website. They've pulled
Okay.
it.
They changed
No.
the website after the last
They
meeting.
changed.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed
All
it.
right.
They-
No.
after we brought this up,
Okay.
they changed
I don't
it.
think no, but he's never been on the board. I'm the only one that's on the board,
Okay?
honestly.
Well,
Ron was
I'm-
never,
I'm-
and it's
I'm
not
only going-
changing the website, Sam.
I'm only
He
going
has
by what
never been on the board of the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust.
Okay,
I'll swear to that.
all right. If they use the same judgment that you used, I think we would have no issue. The fact that there are
Right.
joining memberships, I would understand,
And
I
I think
understand
we'll-
why there would be.
We need to address that then, as a Conservation Commission.
And there needs to be a policy
Right.
on what basis do you expend those funds?
Right.
The statute gives you a great deal of latitude.
And that's
A
why I
great
said,
deal of latitude.
that's why I was saying that if in fact they bill us for the monitoring, then it puts it on a much more black and white issue, that,
But if they never have, why would they start?
because they're providing a service for us, and typically they do. But once again, for conservation commissions, they don't typically charge them.
And I think, to be honest with you, I don't know that it would be appropriate for them to start charging us now, but it certainly should be part of the discussion on anything going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, depending on what somebody charges, you may have chosen to have somebody different
Right.
oversee it.
Well,
So
also,
I don't
since-
know that that's necessarily.
Since most of these were put into effect nowadays, before organizations will take on conservation easements, they require upfront money that they put into a trust fund to pay for ongoing monitoring. In fact, back in the day when Sumner Brook and Spiniff was involved, they did not do that. So the monitoring comes out of their pocket.
And I get that, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and that certainly would be a consideration going forward.
Right.
On new joint ventures, if you
Right.
will. I don't know that simply to now have somebody cut a bill of an arbitrary amount once a year necessarily fixes.
Right. I'd also say that for Spiniff, I have been to 2 of their workshops that they've offered, which is kind of like you're talking
They
about.
get sucked up in this. I want to make,
Right.
I don't, I incorrectly said spinners. I don't have
Right.
anything against those, and I was sure in that one, if it were a membership, that you do get something back for it.
Right.
But again, pointing to
Right.
your meetings, talking
Right.
about a thank you letter for a gift from Fish and Game and a thank you for a gift from the American Forest Foundation.
And I'll watch to make sure that the minutes reflect exactly what the letters back to us say.
And I think more importantly, as chairman, is to make sure that we're not giving gifts to anybody.
Right.
If it's a membership, that's a difference.
Right,
A membership that you can show
right,
opens you to access to training or
right.
some other, tangible
Yep.
benefit to becoming a member.
Yep. I understand that.
If I decided today to become a member of the Dan Hole Pond Watershed Trust, I can do so by simply signing the paper, and
Right.
I get, the minimum is on there is $25. I don't know if they'd accept you if you spent 10 or not, but even let's just say that it's at $25.
Maybe they'd say 50 for you.
They may, hell, they may not even, I may be the first person they'd reject. My point being though, I could become a member for
Right.
$25.
Right.
Would you agree?
Yep.
I think then you have a very hard time as a group justifying the $500 under the guise of it being a membership, when it truly is a donation. And that's where
Okay.
the area to me doesn't become anywhere near gray. It
Right.
really becomes quite black and white.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope. That's
Thank
it.
Anything
Thank
else
you.
on the public input at this section? If not, we're gonna delve into the red folder. I have the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting which occurred on Monday, March 27th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And I have the minutes of the Selectmen's workshop which occurred on Monday, March 27th. I make a motion, we accept them as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We have the check voucher totals. We have payroll for week ending 4/1. It's $37,925.12. Payroll taxes of $12,312.42. Insurance and retirement at $100,350.95. We have accounts payable for week ending 3/25 of $42,265.14, for a total dispersed this week of $192,853.63. I make a motion, we sign them.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. These are again just the batch totals. We review and initial every bill that comes in. We have a notice of intent to cut wood. This is on map 260, lot 17. It's on Granite Road. 130 acres, 100 acres to be cut. The owner is James and Brenda Lenahan. Western Maine Timberlands is the logger. The taxes have been paid. Make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a notice of intent to, invitation to bid. It'll be going out, may have already been advertised. The Town of Ossipee Water and Sewer Department is seeking bids for the replacement of a leach field in the municipal septic system in the Town of Ossipee. Bid specifications are available. The Water and Sewer Office, located at 6 Door Street, Center Ossipee. May come on, contact our Bo Eldridge, the superintendent. Be a mandatory on-site pre-bid meeting, 10 o'clock Thursday, April 27th at 179 Elm Street. Bids will be due by 4 o'clock on Friday, May 12th, at the Selectmen's office here in Town Hall. Bids will be publicly opened on Monday, May 15th at 4:30, Selectmen's meeting. We have a notice of intent to excavate. This is map 124, lot 23, Route 28. It's the Coleman Concrete. Taxes have been paid. I make a motion we approve it.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a request for abatement. This is map 61, lot 37. This is an abatement, this is a case actually that's already gone to the BTLA, where we reached a settlement. It involved the original assessment being $282,949, the revised assessment of $255,249, a difference of $27,700, results in a refund of $580.60. Make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a land use change tax. This is on property which is being taken out of current use. The tax is $4,060. There's a supplemental warrant coming up. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And this is the supplemental warrant for the tax collector that collects $4,060. I make a motion we approve it.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is a warrant for an excavation tax. So tax collector to collect $50.96. I make a motion we sign.
Second it?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We have the new report for the long-term variable milfoil management plan, which is here in the file if anybody would like to look at it. We are making headway every year, a little bit at a time.
Rick, could I ask who's the point person on that from the town?
Ellen.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep. She has our authorization to do the grant and all of that.
Yeah.
Yep. This is a 2016 Equalization Municipal Assessment Data Certificate. And we have to certify that the new evaluation and we, the undersigned, do hereby certify that the assessment and sales information provided by us on the New Hampshire Mosaic Equalization System, say that 3 times fast, has been thoroughly reviewed by this board and is complete and accurate to the best of our knowledge and belief. Make a motion we sign it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Didn't say it once.
Hmm?
Didn't say it once.
This is a notice of intent to cut wood. Map 264, lot 21. It's on Granite Road, 16 acres. DNK Properties is the owner. Western Maine Timberlands is the logger. Taxes have been paid. And make a motion we approve it.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a letter from our assessor, and it's regarding the Ossipee Valley Lodge abatement/exemption request. To paraphrase, our assessor disagrees with the board's previous position and continued position that the Masonic Lodge be granted a tax exempt status. We understand his objection. I don't even know if it's a place for us to sign here. there are two ways in which it could be done, which is to declare them tax exempt or to turn around and abate the taxes after they were issued. Seems to me, again, to be a distinction without a difference. By way of disclosure, I'm not a member of this organization, are you?
Nope.
No,
You're not a Mason?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Sure.
Last time I looked,
I'm going to make a motion that we continue to recognize the tax exempt status as Ossipee Valley Lodge number 74.
Second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. There's not really a place for us to sign on this, Ellen, but if you would relay it by memo, and I recorded vote. This is a quick letter from our attorney. This is on a property which we had taken for non-payment of taxes. It is within a certain within a certain time period that taxpayer can come back and purchase their property back. They have to pay all the fees and all of the issues of collection, which they have done. I'm not going to read the person's name. I don't think that it adds anything to the discussion, but this is the Selectmen's deed returning that property to the previous owner. I make a motion to sign.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. We have the water and sewer warrant, which authorizes our tax collector to collect water and sewer charges in the amount of $82,580.40. I make a motion to sign.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have a timber tax warrant. I love these. Authorizing our tax collector to collect $0.00. This is a required paper to close out particular intent to cut. Make a motion to sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have the 2017 MS 232, which is a report of appropriations actually voted at town meeting. Needs to be signed and submitted. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. We have the Highway Department work log here, if anybody would like to see it. This is a notice from our tax collector. It's for notice of final tax bill mailed. And it's to the Board of Selectmen. Attaches a notice of final tax bill mailed, which requires me to notify you that I have sent this notice to the Board of Land and Tax Appeals. It's here in the folder if anybody'd like to see it. We received a check from Northeast Resource for scrap metal in the amount of $252.14. There's a thing here in the file from Rick Sager. Just for our information, it's regarding the Westwood Shores appeal. Long story short, Northgate Properties wanted to continue to do site work. The court's not allowing that. According to our attorney, we're waiting for the court to schedule a final hearing on the appeal and let us know when that arrives. We have a letter, we're not sure who it's from, but it was sent to the town administrator from a person who often shops at the Hannaford, Route 16. Again, to paraphrase, talking about the tough time it is to get out of Hannaford onto Route 16, and they suggest a curb cut onto Route 28. She ends by saying, I was hoping someone, possibly Selectman Morgan, might look into this. Well, Selectman Morgan, when he was Chief Morgan, begged the state to put an entrance onto Route 28, and they will not, because the entrance would be too close to the intersection for their rules.
Rick, could I speak to that? Because I wrote the same thing to Victoria Chase at the hearing on that section of road reconstruction. And the state purchased the right-of-ways at that time for Route 28 and 16 to control them. Her answer to me was that Hannaford would have to buy that right-of-way back again from the state and then pay to put an exit onto Route 28, which I think would be much better. However, the ball, she said, was in Hannaford's court, that they would have to do that. So that's the answer I got from Victoria
and-
Chase.
Well, that's part of, I'm not denying that's the answer you got. The other half of that is, at the time that shopping center was developed, the state would not allow an entrance onto Route 28
Right.
because it was too close to the intersection. When you point out that it wouldn't be any closer than the Route 16 entrance,
Right.
that did not seem to hold sway.
Right.
And in fact, the argument that I got was two wrongs don't make it right.
Right.
So they didn't want to exacerbate Route 28.
No, I'm just saying that I wrote in, as a member of the commission, just my concern.
Yeah, I agree. And I
she-
personally think,
That's the answer I got specifically, that Hannaford has to buy the right-of-way back, and then they would have to pay to construct an exit onto 28. So,
I agree with this, with whoever this lady is, or her guy is. I would love to see an entrance onto 28, and it appears that might not be in the immediate future. This is a packet which, quite frankly, is a little confusing. We just got it in, so we have, I've read it twice. It doesn't necessarily make a bunch of sense to me, so I don't want to act on it tonight, but I want to put it back on the schedule for next week. This is a letter from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and it's regarding sale of railroad property which is located in Ossipee. Long story short, an abutter has contacted the state to buy two different parcels of land which is currently owned by the state as part of the railroad property. One is just a .25, quarter of an acre, and the other one is .99 acres. Both of them are in West Ossipee. It appears to be in the area of, looking at the map, it appears to be in the area of the old Lions Club, which is adjacent to the rail line. It goes into great detail that these sales would not affect the ability or the future ability of the railroad corridor being developed. That being said, if it is, as a for instance, the old Lions Club property, which it appears by the map that it is, that could be a vital piece of property for the public to still own, should they ever actually do something with rail service through there. So, long story short, it's a confusing letter. I would like some more time, and it asks for us to notify them within 30 days of whether or not we object to the sale. Harry Merrill, who was upstairs at our workshop, said that he believes that the town has the first right of refusal if they should decide to get rid of this land. So I think it's something that we need to look at, and I put it back on the agenda for next week. And if you could just make sure that all three of us get a copy of this in our box.
Okay, I will
Please.
do that, and I did want to just clarify, it's not actually the Lions Club property, that's still owned by Mark McConkey. It's
Okay.
the Freight House,
Okay,
which sits on the state's property.
okay, so it's not the Lions Club, it's the Freight. Okay, okay.
None?
Rick, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Tim Otterbach. The properties right now that run, railroad properties that run through Ossipee, are they addressing specifically just easements adjacent to the actual rail bed?
Well, that's why I'm not, you're welcome to copy this. I'm not clear, having read it, whether or not, it says, I think yes, because it goes into great detail that says, note that this railroad corridor has been out of service since the 1970s. And the primary parcel and secondary parcel, which they described again back in this previous, are no longer pertinent to current recreational use or future railroad use. Even with the disposition of either or both parcels, the state will maintain ownership of and retain the ability to restore railroad service on the main alignment of the railroad corridor at this location.
Right.
Now, that to me is a mouthful when it talks about the main alignment versus maybe where the tracks currently are. I don't know. It's not clear to me.
Okay.
Not
I
clear.
understand that part. I understand that part.
You understand that what the main alignment
Yes,
is versus?
They're talking about where the actual rail bed is located.
Okay,
As opposed to, let's say, a siding or something else,
okay.
or an easement,
Is that a spur?
or a spur, yeah. That is not
Is that,
considered.
does that parcel go to the freight house was on a spur versus the main line?
I don't know if there's a spur, there's a freight house, there had to be a spur.
That's the question.
Yeah, it has to be, because it is a freight house. See pictures of it. I don't, so, anyway, something we need to look at. This is again, a notice from CWS Fence and Guardrail, to whom it may concern, writing to notify you that we begin work on replacing substandard cable and beam guardrail along Route 28, just north of Route 109A, to just south of Route 16. The project begins April 5th and completes by the end of June 2017. We're going to be doing some guardrail work on Route 28. This is a intra-department communication from the state, and it's to find the scoping meeting announcement for the above referenced application. No hard copy will follow. This is from Robert Bollinger. This is actually addressed to the planning board, but it's about an on-site meeting, the request of District 3. Traffic impact study scoping meeting has been scheduled for the following proposed development. The meeting is Thursday, April 6th at 10 o'clock, and this is at Route 16 and 41 regarding the gas station / convenience store.
I think that's in Concord.
Yes.
That's in Concord.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct. It's Thursday, April 6th, 10 a.m. at the New Hampshire DOT Bureau of Traffic Conference Room, Route 106 in Concord. But it's regarding the 16 and 41. It's here. We have another letter, a letter from Joe Deegan expressing his interest in potentially serving on the Conservation Commission. We'll put that in with the others for now. Received a letter from a resident. I'll just read it, I guess. I understand the town of Ossipee is negotiating a new contract with those that are in the union. While I don't know the specifics, this person belongs to a union, and know that every time a new contract comes up, management wants to take something away. I think the workers in town do an outstanding job and deserve a decent wage increase, especially the transfer station workers, as the town decided not to replace the worker that has retired. I would propose a raise that at least covers inflation. I am personally shocked at the pay in this state and would be ashamed if I were the one negotiating for the town. I would think that we would like to take care of our employees. The other issue is the days off. I think it is wrong to take any holidays away from any of these workers and make them use a personal day. I know it costs money, but if you want to keep good employees, then it's worth the price. Well, we obviously did just negotiate a one-year contract. We'll be beginning to work shortly on a 3-year contract. I would point out, when it talks about the raise covering inflation, whether I agree with it or not, the actual rate was set at 0.3%, and our employees received 1.5%. So we were above what cost of living increase set for this area. That concludes the red folder. The water and sewer, real quickly. We have a warrant for the tax collector to collect $1,710. Make a motion, we sign it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we have the batch totals of the water and sewer. where they're reimbursing the town $5,629.75. Payroll, telephone, electric, vehicle maintenance. Make a motion to sign it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old business. Anything new, Brad, on 28-171?
Nope.
Is it just nothing new, or we did, I mean, if they met, are they doing,
Since we had that, on-site meeting late fall, early winter, they've gone back to the drawing board. We haven't heard any correspondence back at all from since then. But everything got put back on the table is all I know.
They were out surveying this afternoon.
Yep. Can you, get back in touch with your counterparts down there and get an update as to where they are and what they're planning on
I
doing?
will do that.
Because if, even doing what they were going to be doing, they should be going out to bid on.
Right.
So, hazardous and dilapidated buildings. I don't have anything new on that. Ellen, can you put it in your notes to get an update from our attorney this week?
I will.
Thank you. 9 Doors Corner Road, has been dealt with. There was a, dangerous substandard mobile home that was moved in without permit. Had as many as 11 people living in it, with no water, no septic. It took a while, it's been going on for months, but we did end up having to go to court. We got a court order, they were removed from that property, and, the trailer has been removed as well. So, long story short, that one at least appears to be coming to an end. Brad, anything new on, licensing for,
No, nothing new to report there. It's an ongoing process right now that we're in.
okay, and Covered Bridge?
Nothing new on that. I will touch base this next week here to find out. I know everything's submitted to the DOT down there now, for the preliminary plans. I don't know if the bills come across you guys or not yet there, but, Hoyle Tanner did finish the preliminary design work.
We signed the bill today.
Yeah, and so it's all being reviewed down at that level there now. Sean did say he was gonna get back to me, and I will contact him this week to find out if there was any more mention of the mitigation on that part of it. I know we're very interested.
That's
in
where
that
I'm
part of
most
it, so-
interested in going, at least at this point, to make sure that we get an answer on that, so that we can start shaking the tree if we need to.
Yeah, I know they're not offering any as far as their presentation, so to do that, they would have to come back to us anyway, I would assume, so, yeah.
All right. Anything else from you on old business?
No, just that, the guys have been, very busy, as everybody knows here, dealing with these storms.
Gonna be busy again tomorrow.
and Another one tomorrow, and it's.
I went down and wanted to know which one of your guys was still doing a snow dance, and I was absolutely assured that none of them are.
Yeah.
So, but it's getting old, and it's the one thing we can't control. Budget-wise, I mean, I guess we're all right. We gotta do what we gotta do. I mean,
We'll manage, yeah.
but it is sickening, to say the least. And then it sounded like even more of a mess, or more mess, coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Maybe not in snow, but in rain and sleet and freezing rain, and spring cannot get here soon enough. But
I agree.
this message,
It's here.
It is, okay, well.
On the
somebody-
calendar, it's here.
Yeah. Please convey to the guys down back our appreciation. Again, these storms are difficult. Those back roads have gotta be a bear
They are.
to plow in this. So, we did, and I wanna just touch really briefly on it. We did get, one complaint, I'm not gonna go into names, with somebody who was, not nice to one of our highway workers because we put too much snow in their driveway. I fully appreciate how frustrating it is becoming. Out there myself the other day, I did not want to see that plow coming back through when I was shoveling at the end of my driveway. I get it. Having said that, if somebody can come up with a way to plow the roads and not put snow in people's driveways, please submit it, and I would submit to you that you should immediately patent it, and you will become a billionaire overnight. you know, cut the guys some slack. They're out there doing their job, they're keeping the roads clear so that we can all do it. And as far as calling up and hollering and swearing and carrying on, our worker did just exactly what he should have done as he hung up on it. And that's that. I wouldn't listen to it, and nor should they be expected to. But I do understand the frustration, but people need to take a breath. The highway guys did not make it snow, but they are obligated to try to get it off the road. Any old business? No. New business, anything? Old business / new business, Miss Ellen is back, and we're glad. She's been out on maternity leave for the last 12 weeks, it seems like 20. And I'm sure that we are going to bury her in the short term. I hope not too badly. I do appreciate all of the staff here at Town Hall and keeping things up. Ellen did an awful lot of work from home, even though she was on maternity leave. She was swinging through and getting the mail, doing things for the warrant, doing things for the town report, and we got through it. Attended town meeting, but we got through it. I won't say it's been necessarily easy, because it hasn't. It's caused some bumps in the road, and we did miss having her here to fill in some of the blanks for us, but we are glad she's back. Hope you're glad you're back.
I'll say it felt like 20 weeks, I'm thinking it felt like 2, but.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a matter of perspective, but.
And she was always accessible too, would you
Yes,
call her?
yes, very much so. Public input, anybody else? Ed, nothing? Wow. Wow. We do have a need to go into a non-public session for tax purposes with our tax collector. It's under RSA 91A32. And I've got A through E if applicable. It's C for a tax matter with our town clerk. Poll the board, Sam Martin.
Yes.
Rick Morgan, yes. Bob Freeman has left, so it'll be the two of us, and we will be back as soon as we can. Should be long.
Wednesday.
All right, I make a motion, we return to public session. For the record, the minutes of the non-public were sealed. I'll briefly, just so that people know that when we meet with our tax collector, what it most generally is about payment arrangements for people who are behind on their taxes. That is what we meet with our tax collector in non-public about 99.9% of the time. For that reason, it is sealed. We don't discuss names in the public as to add any insult or injury to their reputation. So that's what that was about. The meetings have been sealed. Anything else to come before the meeting? No. Any other public or?
I was just
Mr.
wondering
Digg.
about the designation of
Conservation.
about the Conservation Commission.
Yep.
After the 10th, right?
Yeah, we put out a letter, it's in the paper, inviting anybody who's interested to submit a letter, by April 10th. And then,
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep, and then we'll discuss it and decide, and
Okay.
Quick question, are you
Sure.
aware that there's actually, with 3 people coming up for renewal, and we also are shy 3 more?
actually you're only
2
shy.
alternates and,
But you only have to have a 3-member board.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah, there's no, right now, we've been running with 6.
Right.
Which is kind of an odd duck number,
Right.
because we never got, when we put out inquiries for somebody to fill the 7th.
I gotcha.
But there is no requirement. In fact, it actually says it can be a 3-member, a 5-member, or a 7-member board. So,
Right, right.
I think 5 is a normal number.
5 or 7, I'd love to see all of our boards be completely full and overflowing with civic-minded volunteers, but we'll see, I guess. Anybody have anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
And I will second it. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much.
Go